Marc-Andre Fleury, the biggest goaltender on the trade board this year, has just been traded to the Minnesota Wild. We'll get into all the details right now. Hey everybody, so it looks like Marc-Andre Fleury is being traded after all. There was a lot of speculation about whether or not he would be moved at the deadline this year, but he has okayed a trade to the Minnesota Wild, and this is a big one for Minnesota, getting a secure high-end goaltender to try and help them on a playoff run. We're going to get into it all here. Let's first off take a look at the trade, talk about the details here a little bit. So if we look, Blackhawks trade Marc-Andre Fleury to the Minnesota Wild for a conditional draft pick. Could be a second, could be a first, depending on how the Wild do in the playoffs. And obviously, I wanted to know what the condition specifically was, so Frank Saravelli was all over that as well. The conditions on the Fleury pick. It's a second-round pick that becomes a first for the Blackhawks if Minnesota reaches the Western Conference Final, and Marc-Andre Fleury accounts for 4 or more wins in the first 2 rounds. So basically, Marc-Andre Fleury needs to be the starting goaltender for Minnesota, and they need to reach the Western Conference Final, which means winning at least 2 rounds in the playoffs for that second-round pick to become a first-round pick. But either way, the Hawks are either going to get a first-rounder or a second-rounder for Fleury. It just depends on how Fleury does and how far Minnesota goes in the playoffs as to which of those picks it will be. So, what are the Minnesota Wild getting? Well, Marc-Andre Fleury is now 37 years old. He's in the last season of his current contract, and he started 45 games for the Chicago Blackhawks this year. Obviously, the Hawks in general, not a great team. He's just under 500 at 19, 21, and 5. He has a 2.95 goals against average and a 908 save percentage. Now, obviously, those aren't your typical Marc-Andre Fleury numbers, but again, he's not playing on a very good team. If we go back and look throughout his career, I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury's career speaks for itself. 3-time Stanley Cup winner, definitely a Hall of Famer. He's been to, Stanley Cup final and conference finals with Vegas as well. Obviously played a long, long time in Pittsburgh, had multiple 30-plus win seasons. Then went to Vegas for 4 years, played really, really well with the Golden Knights as they were continually a contender with him in net. Then Vegas just dumped him off for basically nothing to the Chicago Blackhawks this year. Chicago thought they were going to be better than they are. They haven't had a very good year. His numbers haven't been great, but look at what he did with Vegas last year. 928 save percentage and a 1.98 goals against average with the Golden Knights last year and a Vezina trophy. I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury is still a very talented goaltender and still has the ability to take a team on a run and really give them elite-level goaltending. So that is massive for the Minnesota Wild because one of the biggest issues for the Wild recently has been goaltending. Minnesota is a team that has been in the playoff picture all season long. They've been in a playoff spot for pretty much the entire year. They're pretty confirmed playoff team. Like, Minnesota's going to make the playoffs. The Central Division's tight as far as, who's going to finish second, third, fourth, fifth, and whatnot, all of that. But Minnesota is going to be a playoff team this year. They have been all season. This makes them even better, and this shores up one of the biggest concerns about the Minnesota Wild, and that was keeping the puck out of their own net. Minnesota's been one of the highest scoring teams in the NHL this year. Unfortunately, their goals against have been very high as well. And Cam Talbot had a great start to the season and was very good in the first half, but he's really dropped off post All-Star break. And really, January on, Cam Talbot has not really been that good. His numbers have really dropped off, really suffered. And goaltending all of a sudden became a major concern for Minnesota. Again, this was a team that everyone was looking at as a playoff team, but the difference between being a first-round exit and being a team that could maybe make a run to the conference finals or the Stanley Cup finals goaltending plays a huge role in that. And I think with the way that Cam Talbot had been playing recently, Capo Kakkonen hasn't been all that great this year. They actually just traded him away as well in a separate deal. He kind of became expendable. He showed flashes last year of having really high potential, but really didn't back it up this season. Cam Talbot, again, good early in the year, but has really taken a drop recently. It became a major concern. And I think if they were going into the playoffs with Cam Talbot in goal, they were likely going to be a first-round exit. Now, with Marc-Andre Fleury anchoring them in net, all of a sudden, this Minnesota team looks dangerous. This looks like a team that could really pull off some upsets, potentially, and maybe make a deep run in the playoffs. And that level of goaltending is going to change that, assuming Fleury is able to play at the level that he, is used to, and maybe, a little bit better than we were seeing in Chicago. With a much better team in front of him in Minnesota, we should see Fleury's numbers go back to at least, maybe not Vezina level like they were last year, but at least back to his usual, level of play, which is very, very good. So this is absolutely an upgrade for Minnesota. Good on Chicago to get a high draft pick for him. Whether it becomes a first or a second, they get a fairly high pick for a 37-year-old goalie on an expiring contract. And a guy that you paid nothing for, essentially, or very low-level prospect that is certainly never going to play in the NHL. So you basically got Fleury for nothing and have flipped him for a first or a second-round pick, depending on how far Minnesota goes in the playoffs. That's a pretty good deal for Chicago and just getting an asset. And, Fleury they didn't need Fleury anymore. He's in the last year of his deal, and they're a non-playoff team. So it's not like they needed him for anything. So really good move there for Chicago to get an asset. But for Minnesota, this helps them immensely right now. They are going to see, I would imagine, I'm certainly hoping, improved goaltending with Marc-Andre Fleury in goal. And they all of a sudden become a dangerous team that I really would not want to play in the playoffs, because they play playoff-style hockey. They're big, they're physical, they can score, and now they've got Fleury in net, which is an upgrade over Cam Talbot. Minnesota is going to be a tough team to play in the postseason, and I think they have a shot to potentially go on a run now this year, rather than being a first-round exit with Talbot in goal. So, I mean, I like this deal for both teams. I think both teams get something that they really could use and are going to make them better. Chicago in rebuild mode. If you can get a early draft pick in the first or second round, that's great. Minnesota trying to make a playoff run have just shored up the goaltending position. So that's what I've got on the Minnesota Wild acquiring Marc-Andre Fleury from the Chicago Blackhawks. I think it's a very solid deal for both teams and will certainly help Minnesota in the playoffs this year. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. And with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, membership, and donation links down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.